Hey everyone, Temporal here, and we are going to be looking at a tweet that was put out by University of Texas Dallas Esports. For those that aren't aware, they are a very solid Overwatch collegiate program, but they're actually very good in all four of the esports they participate in. They would probably be a top 10 esports program across the board at this point. You guys could fight over where exactly they should sit, but they'd be somewhere in that range. So they put up a job offering here for head esports coach, and this isn't quite our usual type of content, but we'll get into it. It's collegiate news. It's interesting. You guys in the Discord are always asking me about business, finance, that sort of stuff, and this is a good one to take a look at. So here we are. Here's the post, and we see University of Dallas Esports. And again, for those that aren't following the collegiate scene, their Overwatch team did just take down Northwood. Northwood was the second best school, and they were strongly the second best school in Overwatch. And obviously, University of Texas Dallas, with their single contenders player, beat the team of, complete field full six-man roster of current or former contenders players. So well done over there. They do obviously have a head coach that most of you would recognize, but that's what we're looking at here. We're okay. They got this done. So and they're good in other things. Smash, they're extremely relevant in. They've got 4 esports they go for, and we'll get into what those are. So full-time job opportunity. We're hiring a head esports coach at University of Texas Dallas to lead and head our collegiate esports program. This person will oversee our 4 varsity esports teams, community programs, and student staff. So they've got student staff, which is fine. Universities frequently run on student staff. You're going to have some non-student staff mixed in there, but you're going to have some level of student staff positions. That's not new to schools. Okay, here we are. This is it. Learn more, and we're going to follow the link before we read the replies because it's not fair to not get our head fully wrapped around to this. The replies to this have been pretty darn negative, but let's see why before we get there. So here's the listing, and we get to job summary. Responsible, and our first interesting thing is it's a head coach for 4 esports. And that should already be a little bit of a wait a second, like that's really hard to do. How can you be head coach for 4 different esports? That's not too unusual by itself for the scholastic esports scene where schools just don't understand that these are very different sports. You can't really coach them. It would sort of be like asking your head coach of who really knows baseball to also run your basketball and cheerleading and track and field teams, where it's like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right unless those are like in different seasons. Maybe like that's not really a thing. The sports are different. What you have to know to run them is different, certainly, but that's a common enough thing. So other than the fact that this is a successful esport program that University of Texas Dallas already has, it's not that weird. You see this, unfortunately, in too many job title listings, even job title listings in the private sector, where it's like, $18 an hour, go coach these 4 different esports at this summer camp or whatever. And it's like, wait, or these 6 different esports. That's just the scene doesn't really understand it yet. But hey, that's life. So now we will look at the listing itself. So you got to master the theory of 4 different games. Exactly. Heck yeah, we took down Northwood. There you go, Nuntype. Nicely done. So, and for those that don't know, Nuntype is a support player for University of Texas Dallas. Okay, job summary. Responsible for the management of the esport programs participating in the intercollegiate athletics program with the direct report to the associate athletics director and director of esport and director of athletics. Okay, so you're going to report in to the associate athletics director and the director of athletics. So it's not a director level job. You're reporting into an associate director and a director. And that they put you doing an associate director and a director probably means you're not terribly high on the totem pole because you're not always going to have direct access to your athletics director. That said, athletics director can be fairly high depending on how the school is positioned. Minimum education and experience. Bachelor's degree, no problem. CPR first aid certification, they probably need that. That's probably there because they're thinking, oh, it's got to be like all the athletics. And hey, that's fine. That's not hard to get. Anyone can go there, get that generally even between when they'd be hired or when they'd be offered and get it. At least 6 months of experience as an esport coordinator. Now, most people in the regular world probably aren't going to know what an esport coordinator is, but an esport coordinator is kind of a position, a manager position, a make sure things run smoothly position. Someone like let's say you have a director of athletics or a director of esports or something, they might create or hire an esport coordinator to sort of run things, make sure things work. It's not like the responsibility that a general manager might have for some sports program or a director might have, but they're kind of what you'd think. They tend to do a bit more than what you'd think of as a manager in Overwatch, because managers on Overwatch tier 2 teams, most of them, too many of them, just rode rosters. Some of them did good stuff, but most of them were riding rosters, scheduling scrims and being like, I'm a manager. Better managers were going, hey, I'm coordinating our social media team, I'm figuring out if we're going to go do merchandise, I'm trying to get in talks to go get us sponsorship deals, even if they're small sponsorship deals, I'm figuring out if we're going to run a tournament, something like that. They'd be doing work that an owner would do if the owner was invested, or they may be the owner themselves. An esport coordinator could be somewhat similar to that in terms of what they do, where they're going to make sure that things run, make sure maybe that, okay, people are, doing that sort of thing. They're not the coach. They're not expected to necessarily have that coaching, hey, we know exactly what to do in these things, but there's some of the make sure the stuff runs day to day, make sure you can interact with the university, that you're able as a program to take advantage of the things that the university offers. Like maybe they offer academic advisors, maybe they offer personal trainers, things like that. Make sure those things are there, getting used, the athletes know about them, and give, a coach who may not be as plugged into the university also a way to do some level of communicating with the university for what they need, as well as communicating with, that social media team. Again, like you might think of as a manager there. So that's kind of things that position would do. If we have any esport coordinators in the chat and you want to actually throw up a job description here, please do so, or please let us know. I think I've done a reasonable one there. We have a super chat coming in from Adam in Charge for $1.99 saying, nerd! Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Imagine being an Overwatch manager. Overwatch managers are useless. All they do is book scrims. Players can handle everything themselves. They don't affect a team's chance of winning. Most of the time that's true, Nuntype, but you'll notice what I described. Am I an esports coordinator or what? No. I don't think that's totally fair, Nuntype. I think that's true of entirely too many managers in the tier 2 or tier 3 scene of Overwatch. I don't think that's has to be true. I think a good manager is effectively seeing themselves as the owner and is going, what do I do to make this brand better? Like, that's what they do. If you go back to Justin of Second Wind, for example, back when that was a team, do you think that's an adequate description of what he did? No, not really. Like, that might be a thing. They might even go get a junior manager to go do that for them, because who needs a scrimbot? Players are perfectly capable of doing that, but there is more you can do. And you can also be shopping your players. You can be talking to the other tier 2 teams. You can be talking to the tier 1 teams. You can be talking to the tournament organizers. You can be doing, hey, let's make sure there is a post-game interview because we want our players and our brand to get more famous. So there is a fair bit more that a manager can do that you would also like to see, again, in the university world, an esports coordinator getting involved in. Oh, now you guys are just, wow, we've got full Twitch chat. We've got Louis just repeating it. We've got Stasis saying it. Okay. Who needs esport coordinators? Okay, so okay, Tyler. Okay. If you want to put up a better description of what a esports coordinator does, please do so. I think I've done a reasonable job, at least from the lens that I get to see it from. Okay. So that's the thing. So what we were getting to here, what was important was they need a bachelor's degree. So that's a bit of a flag. So far, we're interested in head coaching for sports. You need a bachelor's degree. This is fine, not hard to get. And then 6 months experience as an esports coordinator. And maybe you can debate, oh, no, my time as a manager, my time as a scrim bot, whatever, in this is going to count as that. But really what they're looking for here is probably at some university you've done 6 months as an esports coordinator. Okay, that sort of makes sense, but the thing that I run into here is, wait, head coaches might report to esport coordinators, they might report to esport directors, they might report to athletic directors. It's a little weird to be hiring a head coach with esport coordinator experience. Huh. This is a little bit weird. And now let's go on to what we're actually going to do. Preferred is exactly the same as their minimum. And again, this 6 months esport coordinator was minimum, not preferred here. So now we're going to get into responsibilities. Responsible for management of the esports program, participating in intercollegiate athletics programs with direct report to the associate athletics director and director of athletics. So, responsible for management of the esports programs participating in the intercollegiate athletics programs. Okay. And you could say a coach would be responsible for those things. Like you could say that, but again, we're looking at 4 programs that you're responsible for here. And I have to be honest, in the collegiate world, for those of you that don't know, haven't been able to see under the hood, warts and all, most of us are, working in what you'd consider part-time type consultant roles in the esports world, and that's fine. That's what the scene can afford right now. That's what the interest is there for. Like, it would be great if it was more, but you guys, I won't spoil it, but you guys can go look up what the coach for the Overwatch team that is currently the rated number 2 Overwatch team is making. It's not impressive. I'm not going to spoil what he's making, but it's not impressive. Most of you would be like, that's ridiculous, and it's going to be less than this because he's reporting into this head coach. Okay. Expected to work extended hours, early mornings, late nights, weekends, and holidays during athletic seasons. Must be able to lift 50 pounds, travel on a bus or in a van for extended periods of time, and must be able to stand on feet for long periods of time. Most of this language right here is just standard, so I don't really care about it. The bus and van is because potentially you'll be road tripping to land, so that potentially makes sense there. Extended hours, early mornings, late nights, weekends, and holidays during athletic season. But again, it's 4 sports and it's 42K. And 42, we're into salary range at that point for some things. You can, well, I suppose not anymore. Now that's actually sort of in stuff that you'd be looking at for even, not minimum wage, but like in some area minimum wage type things. That's not. I like this is not nothing. This is not nothing. But like again, we're talking 4 esports here, and we're gonna see some things that would compare. If we do $15 an hour, and you can actually get 40 hours, you're gonna again meet things like this. So that sort of thing. And this is saying, hey, on weekends, extra hours, all these things. These absolutely have to be true for this position because matches happen outside of school time. That's when you can get the students to play. That's when they're available. But it is an ask for a job of work outside the standard hours, sort of be on duty, not on call, but have weird hours, not have weekends to yourself, that sort of thing. Which, traditionally in the business world would be worth a little bit of a bump in salary. Must be able to work on a team and adjust to schedules that may change. Sure. I don't knock any of this too hard. This is pretty standard here. Must possess time of hire and maintain valid Texas driver's license. I'm sure they could get that in time because they're probably not going to be hired in 15 days or anything. All employees that serve as representative of the university are expected to display respect, civility, professional courtesy, consideration for others, and discretion. This is just standard stuff of, hey, all of our employees are going to be like this. So that's fine. So I still don't think we know what this job is, hence the thumbnail. We look at this and we're told that it's a head coach position. We're told it's responsible for 4 different esports. We know that they have a leading esport program in terms of their success, though it has heavily been driven by student volunteers, student employees, that sort of thing. And we know the scuttlebutt, or at least we're going to hear the scuttlebutt, is this person isn't, if you read this, they're going to report in here. We're seeing nothing about actual controlling of the budget, actually them planning the profit and loss. So what is this? Like, this is an esport coach of 4 things. This looks more to me like it's an esport coordinator position. So why isn't it being called that? Like, maybe it's a director position, and you guys saw that in the thumbnail. I think there's a strong desire for this to be a director position. I think it would be good for this school to have a director position that's actually figuring out how to make this program profitable, because always there's going to be a profit motive, and you're going to get to a point where you want to go, hey, how do you make it successful? Do you go, hey, we're going to set up an auditorium, we're going to set up PCs in there, we're going to make for all of our matches, our players go to this auditorium, this computer lounge, and then have a screen up there, sort of like we had at Activision Blizzard's original Overwatch League place of like people can come and they can buy beer and hot dogs just like you would in the minor leagues, and you'll get to see them playing, even if their opponents aren't there because it's not actually LAN. For every single game they're there, and maybe you sell tickets, maybe you give tickets for free to students and charge people off campus $5 to get in. Your real moneymaker becomes the we're selling food and beverages. Do you do some sort of summer camp of, hey, look, we're one of the most successful esport countries in the program, and our success and what we cost in terms of recruiting players, in terms of scholarships, in terms of having all of this stuff, we then turn into, we're going to, get people here to run these camps? Well, that's an excellent question. Or do you do something else of, hey, we can sell more merch? But if you're selling the merch, you have to find a way to link the merch, maybe with a discount code specifically to your program. Because you could sell esports merch, but you're also just going to be selling some University of Texas Dallas merch because that's more general, but people are really buying it because they like your esports program. So how do you link that? Do you do it with an online coupon code that you get people to get there? Do you, again, have an esports arena that you're selling merch at to track it? If you can answer these questions, you can fund the program. And that works, but that's not what this job is being asked to do. And that's kind of disappointing because someone who's above and doing these sort of things, this you're in charge of 4 sports, but only sort of, you don't actually have control here. I don't want to say it's a useless job. It's absolutely a useful job. I think you can have an esports coordinator and that can be fine. But I think what these guys would want and what would make more sense would be something in that range. And that's what I really see here. So we'll go through. I'll catch up on chat. We've got some more reactions to read here. I think the most famous one so far would be John's reaction here. John is a coach, worked in 2-tier scene, Hurricane, Cloud9, all that. I love it. I love it. He is my school of thought here. 1,052 peak. See, John, it's higher than mine. My bottom 500 peak. I don't know, John. Okay, so here's John. John has pulled up a couple images to compare here. More details. This is not just an esports. Oh, we should actually go back and get our more details here. More details. A college degree is required. No specific degree is needed. So it does require a college degree. And not everyone in the esports scene, not everyone in the successful esports coaching scene has that college degree, to be clear. So that does limit the number of people who can get it, and limiting the number of people who can get something drives costs up. That said, most programs are not funded terribly well. I do want to be clear, most programs have lots of warts. It's not like, oh, these things are just printing money. They're definitely getting some interest. There's definitely some, hey, schools students want to go to a school because it has a cool esports program and that's more interesting to them than watching football games. Let's face it, football is waning in popularity. Esports are growing in popularity. That's only going to become more true. But these things aren't like making money. Winning the championship doesn't make you a bunch of money as a school or anything. You have to find other ways to monetize this, and most of the schools have not done a terribly good job about that. And I'm going to get a call probably from schools that I do work with of, why are you putting this in a video rather than telling all of us this directly, Temporal? And I'm going to say, I kind of did, but that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so, at Temporal, like I mentioned earlier, we want it to be a director position, but the administrator insists it stays a coach because otherwise they'd have to pay more than 42 a year. Yeah, I get it. The budget isn't available for a director position, but this is still weird. This isn't a head coach position. I totally get it. And what you'd really need is you'd need someone to go, hey, they're going to go there and they're going to pitch, no, I won't work for that, but I will work for 2 to 3 times this. And what you're actually going to do is you're going to hire a director position to do this, and it's going to cost you X. So we'd be talking 80, 120,000, something along those lines. And it's going to get you this in 2 years, in 3 years, because we're going to be selling tickets. We're going to be selling food. We're going to be selling more merch that we've linked directly to us. We're going to be going out and, doing these things where, we bring people on and we host our own tournament that we get people here for, and we sell tickets to that sort of thing. And it's going to be a place that people want to compete, like QFest would be an example, because we are a successful esports school, that sort of thing. College degrees are the norm. Absolutely. College degrees are absolutely the norm for school staff. Like that is the norm for hiring at a university. That's a thing that universities do, and that is totally fine. But that is always going to mean the pool of people that you can hire is more limited. And if the pool of people, it's just a supply and demand equation of the supply is lower, demand, therefore you have to potentially pay more. Now, the reality is you have a huge decrease around wages, which is, hey, it's playing video games and a lot of people want to do it, which is a huge depressor of wages in the area. But not necessarily to the point where go know how to coach and organize 4 different esports for 42K here. Again, I think what we really run into is this could be something much more interesting. This could be something greater. It's not that. This is probably really an esport coordinator position that is being posted here, to be perfectly honest. And it's not about coaching, and like they should have level on some understanding of, yes, how these things work, but not like a strategic understanding of it. And this, and if these guys want to grow their program, or these guys, you guys, since you guys are here, what you would want to do is you would want someone who gets what I'm going to call here an esport coordinator position, but an esport coordinator is happy to call me out and say, no, you're wrong. You're going to want someone who's really a champion and is really constantly lobbying for, hey, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. But really, to get through to any sort of athletics director, associate athletics director, it's going to be about how can you build the programs to show the success. Be that building, okay, we hosted a LAN and that actually made some money. We're selling merch and we've found a way to link our selling of merch to make it different than the rest of the school selling of merch, so we know that this merch sales are coming directly from us, that sort of thing. Okay. No, it's 42K for a year there. It's not monthly, Magdalena. 42, that would be hugely overpaid. Again, there's way too, like, that would be way too high for anything in this space to do 42K a month. Just to be clear, because again, these aren't actually like printing money for the schools in any way. Okay. So let's move on. Ah, yeah, John. So John here has this. And he says, I could control the entire esports department program of a university while coaching 4 different games, or I could work at McDonald's. And what he's responding to here with his images are, this is not just an esports coaching position. You're also responsible for managing and running the entirety of our esports department and program. So this is in the tweet. You are responsible for running and managing the entirety of our esports department and program. And I struggle a little bit with this because now you are starting to describe a director position. This is getting a little bit beyond esport coordinator. We're long past head coach, and we know that, but like that's weird. Applicants should be highly familiar with Overwatch, LoL, Smash, and Rocket League on a competitive level. And what does highly familiar mean? Because highly familiar could be a lower standard than able to coach it, which, okay, then it's fine, but why are you calling the position head coach in that case? And I know it's money reasons, but like ultimately your title does impact who's going to look at it and who's going to be willing to take the job. Because just like this position here says requires 6 years experience or 6 months experience as an esport coordinator, well, your time as head coach over here may not is unlikely to fulfill this when you're going and looking for your next job that potentially requires something like this. You see how that works? Where like titles do matter. Titles are not consistent across companies. You can absolutely make the pitch if you get the interview of, oh, hey, no, this is really the same thing and all that. But in the era that we're in of machines do the looking at resumes and everything like that, and they're scanning it for so many positions, anything like this hurts you, where you'd have to explain it in the interview because you won't get to the interview. Okay. Here we are. And then we see we've been given our things here. Position, esports coach, athletic, 42,000, regular full-time. McDonald's salary information. The average salary for a store manager is $51.95 per year in the United States, which is 16% higher than the average McDonald's salary of $44,690 per year from this job. So 44K is higher than you would see from this. That said, this is, assuming that you're going to be getting full time, which is not necessarily true for the average McDonald's worker, at least to my knowledge. I don't think this is true. I think this is probably true for a manager. I would expect a store manager. An actual store manager is like either the one running the franchise or running the franchise that they've bought if running independently, or is the person that all of the actual managers are reporting into, shift leads, that sort of thing. And I actually expect if the normal pay is this or would be this for full time, I suspect store manager is higher and that this is just wrong. But that's okay. Okay. So that's a fun one. And then we have some other ones here. And this isn't fair. And I'm doing this to be balanced, guys. This right here is not fair. I am not just going to be the champion of how dare the school only pay 42K for this, because I'm also going to point out, hey, there is not a ton of money in this scene, and I want to be clear on that. So UTD Esports outperforms other programs with a fraction of the budget. Men's basketball, and we see this 95K. Men's baseball. Men's basketball, 80K, women's basketball, 80K, and radio, 53K. So those are some other programs that they have, and like, oh, they're being funded with, much less, or these guys are funded much, much better than the esports program. Four things together are, and that's 40K, 10K per team. And we see here, so Smash, number 1 in the country, Overwatch, top 8 in the country. At this moment, we'd probably call them number 2. They're definitely top 6. Rocket League, top 4 in the country, League of Legends, national qualifiers. Okay, so those are 3 really good teams that we're looking at there of their 4. How dare they? Well, this isn't really fair. And the reason this isn't really fair is you have to think about these from a perspective of, what do we get to sell at baseball games? Beer and hot dogs. Oh, those work pretty well. Now, are they heavily attended? Probably not, because they're not a top team. I don't know. I'm not there. But hey, that's something we need to think about. And then you're going to see similar things with these where they're able to monetize these better. They're probably also selling more baseball caps at baseball games than they are at esport events, because guess what? Your esport events right now are, hey, we threw something up on Twitch and we have 60 people watching it, 30 people watching it, 90 people watching it, and none of them are subbing. Or, 5 of them sub per month, and Twitch takes half of that, and that didn't actually make us very much money. That doesn't work very well from a monetization standpoint. And what you've also got going on is you're going to have, when it comes to any university's funding, there's going to be a fair amount of alumni. You're constantly, once you graduate university, going to be getting peppered with emails from your school, from the alumni association saying, hey, give us money, give us money, give us money. You have debt, don't worry about it, give us money. And some people who do well, who like their school, whatever, are going to donate money, but they're sometimes going to attach asterisks to that money saying, hey, I really want to help our baseball program, or I really want to help the women's basketball program, or things like that. And alumni are going to be people who are donating money, and in the sake of your especially successful and wealthy alumni, they're probably going to be going, hey, I really had a great time playing baseball. Or, hey, I really like your basketball team. I watch basketball, whatever. And they're going to assign things to that. You do not yet have a ton of old, successful alumni that are donating to an esports program. The alumni are not interested in your esports program yet. You've really only got 1 or 2 years worth of people, and they haven't had time to make their nut and then go, well, what do I want to do? What cause do I want to support with my dollars? Because you will see this in the future. You will see alumni in the future going, I don't care about your baseball team, but I absolutely care about this. And because that's not in place, it's not fair to be like, oh, look, the baseball team is better funded. Well, sometimes the baseball team is being funded by alumni who insisted that their donation go directly to the baseball team. Oh my God, that's my slide. There you go. There you go. Okay. I assume the sales these other sports are making through goes towards funding their trips that they have to make all the way for away trips. We don't have that expense. That's true. That's true. No, they absolutely do have some more expensive things there, Noreen, where they're going to have more expensive away trips than an esports program has. And they're also going to have in some ways, more expensive equipment than an esports program would have. But again, money doesn't just come out of thin air. So some of this is funding their more expensive trips, perhaps their more expensive tournaments to enter, that sort of thing. But they're making quite a bit more, I'd assume, and they're getting targeted donations, whereas you guys just aren't at this point compared to what you were going to see, compared to you guys do still have trips. Like I talk to you guys, I know some of you guys, and like you guys do still drive out to lands. Is that expensive? No. But competing in some tournaments, like you guys compete in NACE if memory serves, and that does cost money. Like there is a tournament registration fee for some of these tournaments. And I don't know if you guys as students are pooling money and being like, hey, let's go pay for this. My suspicion is that your program or your school is paying for that. Okay. Okay, good to know. So that is very helpful. Noreen hops in here to say these figures are pulled from funding allocated through university money in their fiscal report. Alumni donations are external. Okay, that is absolutely useful information. So I very much appreciate that clarification. It doesn't really change the point I was making that, hey, there will be bigger budgets for these things because of alumni donations, even that isn't being listed here. But yes, that does absolutely help. But there's also something to be said for um, it it doesn't change the point there, though. It's absolutely I very much appreciate knowing it, so that's helpful. Doesn't change the fact that there will be targeted alumni donations that don't show up here that are causing them to have more funding, but it's also still going to come down to how good a job is esports doing of paying for itself. Is it able to very directly go, hey, 20%, 50%, whatever of the students that are coming here because they've marked one of the most important things in getting them to come here was they were interested in the esports, or they were interested in watching them or going to a school with a good program, that sort of thing. Or is it, okay, again, generating revenue or very directly selling merch, that sort of thing? Here's the full PowerPoint. Uh-oh, we've got a full PowerPoint. I love it. You probably can't link it, though. Okay, University of Texas, Dallas. Am I out of touch? No, it's the entire college scene who is wrong. I don't know that it's the entire college scene. Like, it's wrong to be calling this a head coach position, but let's be honest, we can all go find a lot, and I mean a lot. If we were to go on Hitmarker or whatever right now and look for jobs, we would find places recruiting exactly how University of Texas Dallas is recruiting, a head coach to coach 4 different things, and they wouldn't then have a coach under them in each thing. It would really be one coach to try to coach 4 different esports. Like, we could find that pretty easily in the collegiate scene. We're just not used to finding that in the top 10, the top 16, even the top 32 schools in an esports scene. So it's weird for their level of success that it's quite like this. It's not weird, unfortunately, at the collegiate level that they're out of touch, we'll say here. Okay, there we go. We also wanted to open the floor for sponsorship markets with esports, particularly because there is huge potential, but our school restricts us there too. All of that is in the PowerPoint there. Is there a full PowerPoint here? Where can I find the PowerPoint? Ping me on Discord. Ah, did you just send it to me? No. Send it to me on Discord if there's a PowerPoint that I can open here, because that would be helpful. Yep. Mm-hmm. You linked it? In YouTube chat? In YouTube chat, it probably got killed by the censors, unfortunately. Did you put it in here in chat? I'm not convinced I'm going to be able to find that. Got deleted. Yeah, I suspect Automod got that. So if you can drop that in the collegiate Discord, you can drop that in my Discord, you can DM me directly, you DM'd me directly. Thank you. Okay, we'll take a look at it. Sure, we've got you guys here. Thank you. Okay, so that's fine. A couple of you sent it. Cool. So, esports and our value, great. And who put this together? Did you guys put this together? Did the director put this together? Who put this together so that I understand it? Presentation, general guidelines, introduction, achievements, and accomplishments, legitimacy and visibility, viewership data, University of Texas Dallas College sports programs, other collegiate esports, lost potential, sponsors, conclusion. Okay, here we go. Our program, no divisions. All colleges play each other regardless of funding. That's mostly true. I mean, we've experimented with that in collegiate Overwatch, at least, for are there going to be regional things. NACE, for example, is currently doing regions, though ultimately you eventually play against each other. But yeah, there's no regions. It's not quite like some of these other things of here's the Pac-12, here's this, that sort of thing. Teams. Smash Bros, Overwatch, Rocket League, League of Legends, okay? Creative staff, coaches, managers, broadcasters, okay? Achievements and accomplishments. Overwatch team manager did it. Got it. Smash Bros. 4 championships, 2 national titles, beat out 100 plus colleges. Nice. Winner of CNC, winner of NACE, winner of Collegiate Smash Circuit, winner of CSL. Nice. Beat Smash Team, best Smash team in the country. Yep, that looks like a pretty defensible conclusion there. Cool. Rocket League top 4 in the country. Luby plus Talton placed in the top 3 players in Rocket League in the world. Nice. Overwatch team top 8 in the country out of 300 plus college teams. Yeah. Winner of UGC League, winner of USF Invitational, Jukebox, Pedal, Cashier, all top 15 in North America. Okay. Everyone on the roster, top 500 in North America. Sure. League of Legends, top 4 in the country. So obviously we can parse that a little more closely because we're like top 500 is a little bit fluid and sort of what happens there. But sure, as is top 15. But that's absolutely fine. This makes sense. This is the type of thing that you'd want to talk about when you're selling yourself. Like, this is a good thing to sell if you're trying to build up fan interest, and this you lead with your achievements if your achievements are good. I like this, but it's going to very quickly turn into, okay, but what can you do for us? What's the future? How is this going to make us money? Legitimacy and visibility. Players and coaches invited to give interviews, post-match interviews, Dallas Morning News, articles plus championship-winning interviews. Our Discord has 3,000 plus members and counting. So this is good. So we're talking about, hey, we're doing post-match interviews, Dallas Morning News. This is going to be legacy media, I expect. I assume this isn't just a college paper. And this is going to have some level of, hey, we're getting visibility in the press. It's not strictly negative visibility in the press. That's the sort of thing your university is going to care about. So that's good. Article plus championship winning interviews. And these are cool, but the articles matter again. Is this the school paper? Is this a very local paper? Is this, you guys are Dallas, so if it's Dallas local paper, that's real. In most places, if it's the local paper, it wouldn't be that real. Because again, you're interested in, can we recruit further than just your town, that sort of thing. How big is the readership? And that's good. Championship winning interviews. The problem is most of us, I at least know what that looks like. Who you're presenting this to probably doesn't. And these are things that teams should be doing. This is free press. You guys should be making your players do this. I absolutely make my players do this. This is good to do. Again, it's more publicity for your players, for your school. That is good. But let's be honest, most of these Twitch streams are being watched by, maybe 200 people, may not be 90 people. When we're on the Contenders channel, which unfortunately hasn't happened this season, you can get a lot more people than that seeing it, but most of this stuff, when you're getting an interview, isn't hitting that many people. Still absolutely right to do, but this isn't like a real needle mover in this. Discord has 3,000 plus members and counting, and what are these? Are these members that are at the school, are potentially interested in coming to the school? Is this just open to anyone? Because this becomes interesting of, hey, we have 3,000 plus people interested in esports on our campus. Maybe this should be a little bit more of a focus. Maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is something where if 3,000 plus people are interested in esports, maybe we could, again, host games, have our people up there with their 5 computers in front of a screen, and we can see them on the screen. Again, sort of like the, Contender Season 0 Overwatch League type stuff was done in that sort of setup, and go, can we sell tickets? Can we sell food and drink at this event, etc., because there's this much interest on campus? Or is this a, hey, these are people who are at high schools who might be interested in attending college, and this is potentially our recruiting reach, that sort of thing, and we can do some recruiting plugging here. Correct, Dallas News. Nice. You love people seeing your players' faces. Excellent. Sounds like you're doing your job there then. Scott Free says, hey, Temporal, I switched from restaurant management to esports gaming, and I feel like the job descriptions make no sense half the time. Sure, that makes sense. I think that's true, but you have to remember they're frequently being written by people who... They're either going to get written by people who maybe have some business sense, maybe have some school sense, maybe have some HR sense, but just literally don't understand the scene, or they're going to be written by people in the scene who have very little experience in the real world. And that's the unfortunate reality. It's not very often that you're working with people in the esports scene who actually have a ton of real world experience. Like me, I've worked director level, I've reported into the C-suite, I've worked at small businesses, I've worked at large businesses, I've had teams of 12 people, I've had teams of 80 people. Like I I have this where I can go, oh yeah, I see this, I understand how to do this, I understand how to do this. I've reviewed contracts, I'm happy with legal, I'm happy with HR, happy to work with different divisions within a company. That is not most people in esports. And because that is not most people in esports, when you go, oh hey, put a job description together, the people who know the esport really have never written a job requirements listing before. They don't know how to write a job requirements listing before. They just want to coach their game or play their game or go make a funny tweet on social media. And that's unfortunately the reality. And the people who do know how to do these things are still looking at it like, ew, a video game, what's that? But also are going, we don't know anything about it, and you haven't written anything up for us to translate. Like, you can have a meeting of the minds where, like, a coach or someone writes something up and it's not quite in acceptable HR speak, and it gets translated to acceptable HR speak, but it doesn't get totally butchered, and hey, it's a meeting of the minds and it works. But the people that you have existing first have to do this. And I think that is being done at Dallas, to be fair. This is not a critique of Dallas. It sounds like Texas Dallas, the student involvement there, the student staff, as well as the volunteers, whatever they've got, are putting a lot of soul and heart and energy into this thing. Sometimes they might need to push the right buttons a little bit better, but it looks like they are. The fact that they put this PowerPoint together tells me, hey, they care, they're putting in the effort, they're not being lazy about this, and they're mostly finding the right buttons to push. Okay, eSport Twitter is verified. 2.5k followers. That won't be impressive, but I get it. Most followed Texas eSport program. Good, good. Put that in perspective for them. Most followed UTD program. Very good. Though I imagine you guys have a UTD sports or UTD athletics thing that is a broad category that is probably followed by more. I'd be somewhat shocked if you don't. And it's not totally fair to say your esports thing is the most followed when it's 4 things. Like, this might be 16 things or 30 things or 10 things, but like, this is a thing that probably has more followers than this. And calling it, oh, it's one single program, well, we're trying to make the argument that no, this needs to be like, yes, it can live under the esports umbrella, that should be its own thing, but there are 4 different sports being played here. It's not actually? Really? Really? The athletics thing is they have less followers. Dang. Someone needs to get on them for that, because to be perfectly honest, there's no reason they should have less followers. Like, someone hasn't been driving that well, and someone probably needs to be replaced in charge of driving that. Someone else needs to be driving that, because that means that there's either a bad social media team, or the school still thinks social media isn't important, or it was just, and this is probably what happened, it got added to some existing person's responsibilities, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been, if it's going to be added to their responsibilities, it needs to be, they need to have the time to do it and actually make it a focus, because it is somewhat important, or it needs to be even a student volunteer, not a student volunteer, but a paid student could do a good enough job to make this bigger than this. And again, I don't mean that as a knock, but like, this should be very doable. It's not a gigantic margin, but it's still there. Nice. Good on you guys then. Okay. Okay. Esports Twitch is partnered, 1.3k followers. Esports Instagram has 1.3k followers. Nice, nice. Okay. UTD esports viewership is significantly greater than traditional UTD sports. Okay. Traditional sports at UTD are in Division 3. Got it. Turnout and visibility significantly less than esport. Division 3 rarely broadcast with less than 1k viewers on average. Okay, what does game attendance look like? And how have they monetized this? Like, you guys should start looking into this. How have they monetized this? And then it starts getting into your pitch of, they haven't even monetized this stuff. We have. Like, we're not bringing in very much money from our Twitch subs and our Twitch partnership and that, but we're bringing in some. The only money they have is what they're getting from sponsorships with Coke that we've been locked out of. And like, we could go get good ones too, but we've been locked out of it, and that's fine. They were here first, but like they haven't done anything interesting well. And I'm not saying that that's true. They might be doing a great job of selling, merchandise, selling hot dogs, selling that at the games. They might be moving. They don't need like to have 10,000 people there. It doesn't need to be like 100,000 people. It doesn't need to be a Ohio State football game. But like, are they getting 300 people there? Are they getting 100 people there? What do their games look like? Because they can sell stuff at those. The UTD Comets Twitter has more than esports. Never mind. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. At the time of making the PowerPoint, it wasn't outdated info. Okay, so they've swapped it. Okay. Rocket League, tens of thousands of viewers on average. Okay, but that's like, yes. So this is true. This isn't your broadcast, but neither is this necessarily. Like, this is, and one of the cool arguments is you can sort of have a greater level of ownership of the broadcast. It's still going to be owned by YouTube or Twitch or whatever, but you can have a greater degree of ownership of it than you would here. But like, you can get better TV deals than you can. Like, you guys aren't really seeing the profit sharing for this. The attention is good, but the profit sharing isn't here the same way broadcast rights are sort of getting sold. Unless it's to, again, but I don't know this. Like, I don't know what the deal is. You guys might be in a case actually in Division 3 where you're not selling broadcast rights. You're just getting the occasional local television type thing. I don't know what's going on here, but that's fair. Division One equivalent, right? But Division One would have actually been, hey, the schools worked together, came to an agreement, and they sold off rights to ESPN or whoever to broadcast it. You guys aren't selling off rights to the Rocket League tournament organizer or the developer or whoever's doing this to get that money. They're getting that money, would be my guess. And still, it's still important for attention, and you should still bring that up. But I'm just, I'm looking at this from the business perspective of how do you make this interesting to your school. No, not a lot of in-person people showing up. Okay, so you guys need the better program that happens in. In general, trends show more interest in esports accessibility, absolutely, and viewership than traditional sports. Right, and you got to remind them, hey, you guys, I get it. You're in charge. You're in charge. You guys are running the university. You guys are running this stuff, and I get it. Your generation watches football. Your generation watches baseball. But like, the people who are currently coming to the college are thinking a lot more about esports than they are about football. Football is waning in popularity significantly with concussions concerns and all those things, whereas esports are growing. And it might not be exactly these esports. There could be concerns of, hey, is this esport going to be around 6 years from now? And the answer may be no, but the infrastructure you build for, hey, we're going to have computer setups to do this at, hey, we're going to have places where people can come watch on the big screen us play, things like that. Well, those you can use regardless of the esport. Those things work. Oh, hey, we're going to set up these things. Like, it might cost some investment, and you might not make back all that investment initially, and the esport may phase out before you make back a ton on that investment. Like, you'll make back the investment, hopefully, but before you'd make back a bunch to start being profitable. But then your startup costs for the next esport are basically nothing, because you've already figured out how to tag merch sales to your esports, how to sell food at your games that are watched, how to, how to track when the merch is sold through your program, that sort of thing. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. UTD Esports outperforms other programs with a fraction of the budget. Okay, we saw this slide. Cool. SUAAB, I don't know what that is, but they've got 500K, 450K, 460K really. Spirit programs, 150K, sure. Debate, top 25 in the country, 107K, nice. And again, we're comparing to UTD Esports, sure. Other esports programs. Let's see the other esports programs. Okay. In addition to the initial spending for an arena, annual esports budgets can also be quite steep. Boise State, 500K. Okay. Ohio State, 250K. Georgia State, 136K. Kennesaw State, 113. Kennesaw State, really? Interesting. University of Texas Dallas, 51K. Okay. Yeah, that proves the point a little bit, sure. obviously there's some thing of, hey, they have someone who owns this who can run with this at these programs. They have staff already there at Boise State. We know some of the ways that Boise State has monetized, but they already have people there with vision and purpose that are also trusted that get to run these programs. So, like, I get it. This is still a good argument to make. I'm just dismantling your argument for the sake of, this is the resistance. Like, I'm being the realist for you guys of, hey, they have these, but they also have people there who have the vision and dedication that they're going to trust. They're never going to give students the ability to do that. And someone that they hire on, anyone that they hire on to do this thing, really is going to need that director level position. And they're going to have to talk themselves into the job. They're going to have to go, I'm not going to work for 40K. I'm not going to take this head coaching job, but maybe I'll take a director job for 120K or for whatever the case may be. And by the way, in 2 years, what this is going to cause your program to look like is this, and this is how I'm going to do it. And these numbers aren't 100% hard numbers in terms of how you're going to get there, but I've done this before, or I know how Boise did it, or I know how Georgia did it, or I've done this previously in with Cloud9, or I did this previously with whatever the case may be in there, with Immortals, something along those lines is going to have to be how this sort of happens. Obviously, the people who actually did that with Cloud9 and Immortals aren't going to be the ones who come take this job, but, were there for the ride and saw it done, or, did slightly less successful programs than those. Hey, Speakeasy. I know you've got thoughts on this one. I think you'll find that I think you probably already found even in our discussion that I'm not quite as, oh my God, how dare they do this as most of the people reacting to this. But we'll see. We'll see. That said, it's not right. I mean, the job listing is a joke at head coach for 4esports when it's not a coach position. It's probably an esport coordinator position. Okay. Unity Esports lost, but also has currently untapped potential. Lost, but also currently has. Oh, we didn't get through this. Since 2017, Harrisburg has invested heavily in its esports program. In preparation for its inaugural season, the university embarked on a $750,000 project to build the on-campus facility. Harrisburg's communications director, Steve Infanti, estimated the total annual budget at $2 million for esports teams, including coaching and staff salaries, facilities, technology, travel, and productions. And that's a bit of I'm not sure that's a strong example because Harrisburg definitely has some level and they've been able to track that, hey, a lot of the people who are coming to Harrisburg are doing so because they know about the esports program and esports are more interesting to them than, say, football, that sort of thing. So they've done something there and that's in some ways gotten them some benefits, but they've spent a lot and they aren't winning. Maryville at least slipped in there and got the win even after Northwood showed up on the scene. But Harrisburg has spent heavy on, and I'm talking in Overwatch. I'm not talking esports in general because I don't know Harrisburg's esports in generals too well. I know some of it, but we can look at Overwatch and they spent heavy in Overwatch. They were one of the two early schools to build a super team. It was Harrisburg and Maryville for those that don't know, and it hasn't really worked. And then, turns out ISU showed up and beat them. And okay, I'm not going to say Harrisburg spending is down the drain. It's obviously not. There's other esports programs. They're a very good esport program. And they have done the work to show that, hey, students that are coming to our school, a high percentage of them are coming here because of interest in this. So we're, getting some of the recruiting credit. And obviously students are customers. That's not a great way to think about things, but it is how it works in the modern world. Students are customers. They're paying to go to your school. And this is one of the reasons they're picking to come to our school rather than a different one. So there's some value there, but I don't know that I'd tout them as the biggest success. I'm happy for someone from Harrisburg to say, no, our other things have actually been amazingly successful and we're, doing a good job of ramping up or making it back, but we'd have to see here. Noreen says, we're able to beat the second team with a budget of 40K. Imagine if we can get monitors that don't screen tear and keyboards that don't double type. I hear you. I absolutely hear you. But that is doable. But again, it all comes down to money. Prove it to them. This PowerPoint is great. It's good that you guys went ahead and did this. I'm glad that you guys had this. I hope you guys got to present this to someone that mattered. Were you presenting this to your director? Were you presenting this to a dean? Who did you get? Did you get to present this to a board of people? I'm curious who you got to present this to. Or did you send this out here on social media hoping it would get seen with this push from movement? I'm curious. The Mizzou esports team is made up of 21 athletes who specialize in 3 games: Overwatch, Rocket League, and League of Legends. Speaking of Mizzou, the students have scholarships, and Kevin Reap says Mizzou's esports budget is around 150K. Mizzou is also the first SEC school to have an esports program. Okay, so you're putting some comparisons out here, pointing out triple the budget, that sort of thing. Triple the budget for 3 rather than 4 things. Yeah, that makes sense. UTD Esports lost, but also is currently untapped potential. Lost several pro players due to lack of funding. Niche to UNT. Liar, Winthrop, Aspire, Owl. Okay. Were you ever really going to be able to hold someone back from Owl? I don't know about that one. Current Overwatch players working 2 jobs while being best collegiate main tank in Texas in order to best collegiate main tank in Texas. That's some qualifiers right there. Okay. In order to afford schooling at UTD. Okay, I'm laughing in the middle of that statement, and I shouldn't be laughing. Like, we shouldn't be laughing at working 2 jobs. You do you. You absolutely do what you have to do to make it through life, and good on you if working 2 jobs is the way to do that. That's that's like that makes sense. Do what you have to. And I don't know if Overwatch makes sense. Like, Overwatch doesn't compensate you well enough to do that, but if it's part of your condition for how you got into the school, maybe you have to, if you think the school is going to set you up for the future. And yes, I am talking directly to this player if they see it here, but like, if you're having to work 2 jobs to do it, I don't know, unless you're really like, no, I'm going to make it into Owl, and Owl is not a reliable career path, and it does not last a long time. So like, you might want to pause and evaluate on that one. And no, this is not me trying to go, hey, I'm going to dismantle your dreams or anything. Like, I'm really not trying to do that. I am from the outside. Obviously, you have to make your decisions, but I'm not from the outside laughing at your dreams or anything like that. I'm just saying that's a lot. Like, 2 jobs plus being a varsity athlete plus school is a lot to do. And you are sacrificing something somewhere, and it's probably sleep. And that hurts. That situation sucks. I laugh in the middle of that because it's like, we're throwing qualifiers of collegiate, Texas, specific position, but no, I shouldn't have laughed. Like, that is a tough one. And I absolutely wish you the best. No, I'm not pursuing Al Not Worth. Okay, that makes sense, Louis. Lamau, thanks. Okay. Lamau, you should have picked up Muma. Okay, good luck to you, Louis. Okay. With more funding, these scenarios can be avoided. Athletes can spend more time working towards being the best in the game and getting UTD to number 1. Right, but number 1 again has to be backed by something. Like, number 1 is cool, but we have to sell the administration more on what is being number 1 get your school. Is it getting you more recruiting options in terms of raising the quality of your school, the prestige of your school? Like, raising the prestige of your school is good, but only if it gets you more for recruiting, gets you to be allowed to charge higher rates, gets you to be allowed to have more successful alumni who donate more in the future, or if it can more directly be translated to compensation in terms of, well, the program's more than paying for itself. Okay. Let's move on to slide 12 here. We've got 2 more slides here. Sponsorship conflicts, limit opportunities for growth. Everyone's going to struggle with that. Because this works, and this happens in business too, unfortunately, where it's like, oh, hey, you've signed up with Microsoft, and Microsoft is therefore requiring that you use Microsoft products everywhere, and that means you have to use Teams when you would rather use a different program. And that sucks, and your division of devs, who's mostly separate from the company, mostly works independently, still has to go use Teams, still has to maybe go overpay to use Teams, whatever the case may be. I'm not specifically picking on Microsoft there. That's just an example because it's a company everyone knows. That happens all the time in business, all the time in schools, and that's how these things get signed, done, whatever, and you do just kind of get stuck with that one. You do, of course, appeal that, hey, we should be getting some of that money since we could go get our other sponsorships if we weren't locked out of it, but that's an uphill battle that's going to be very, very hard to win. Conflicting sponsorships with UT Dallas, Red Bull Monster, RBG Custom PC, Dell. Yep. And that's good. You want to point out, you do want to point out the sponsorships that you're losing out on, and you also want to put estimated values. You want to put estimated values, whether that was through product or whether that was through actual dollar amounts. You want to put estimated values, and it's okay if these values are wrong. Don't lie. Don't be deceitful about it, because you didn't get far enough in the talks before they broke down because you had conflicting things. But if you had an estimate of what these were going to be, you should put these here, because once things have real dollar numbers, they start to get a little more serious to people reviewing them. Because so far, again, there's some numbers here, but most of your numbers don't have dollar values associated with them. This much viewership, this spot in the country, this. As soon as you start putting real dollars to them, even if they're projected dollar values, that's when people start understanding it. Remember, people don't know what Twitch viewership is. They're like, you're second place in a video game that are 300 schools competing. That's fantastic, but it doesn't mean quite enough to them. You're 5 minutes behind, just now realizing it. Got it. Um, PC is limited to Dell, not able to accept sponsorships from any PC companies, right? Lack of tech sponsorships to fuel esports program. Relevant sponsorships conflict, tech plus sports drinks. Get more creative than that. I mean, you can absolutely do the standard places that go for esports sponsorships, but if you're creative, you can go market at other places. Have you guys gone and talked to, I don't know, internet bed companies? Have you gone and talked to them and been like, hey, what do you guys have? It's real cheap to get a sponsorship in esports. We could have this, and we could have on our Twitch stream, on every Twitch stream, we're going to promote purple, or we're going to promote, whatever the case may be there. Like, reach into categories that are not flooded already in the esports market. It's going to be harder because you're going to have to prove to them, hey, these are things, this is a place to spend money, but like, this is highly efficient, and look at what other respectable companies like Red Bull, like Dell are doing in this place. And guess what? Everyone has to sleep, and I'm just throwing that out there as an example, but you don't just have to limit when you're doing your outreach, when you're doing your lead generation to sort of the traditional esport things. And I find a lot of people go, well, everyone else has talked to energy companies, energy drink companies, and gaming companies, so that's who I'm going to go talk to. And it's like, no, you're going to go literally try to find your way in anywhere that makes any degree of sense. Anything that sells directly to the public is potentially something you can get in on there. Video games are for kids, grow up. Except the grown-ups play video games now. Okay. And the grown-ups who will be the alumni will be the ones who want to brag about their school and that sort of thing, and talk about how cool their school was because, I went to, UT Dallas, and UT Dallas has the best Smash program. Even if they didn't play Smash, they want to brag about that to their friends 6 years from now. Well, yeah, that's something that the school does like. Okay, overview. Already an incredible program with less than half the funding of our competitors. Good. Adequate funding for players and staff can easily lead to top 3 in the nation and notoriety for UT Dallas. Sure. Esports program is the prime athletics draw for UTD. No other D1 programs. More viewership, plus more accessibility, plus general audience. Great. This is fantastic. That is something that you want to stay on there. That's something that you want to stay on there in terms of doing that, sure. Other similar programs receive sponsorships from brands like Subway, Red Bull, Tim Hortons, Monster, etc. Have at least twice the funding our program does. This is a major revenue and visibility potential. This is a major revenue and visibility potential for the university. Additional funding would allow the program to go above and beyond. So here's your next steps. So what you would then do with this is you don't stop here. You don't then go, thank you. You go next steps, and you tell them what you're asking for. You go, you're not asking for more funding. You're going, if we get another 50K of funding, it's going to go like this. Or the next 20K of funding is going to go into this. The next 30K of funding after that is going to go into this, and that's going to lead to this return. That's going to lead to this return, that sort of thing. Those are your next steps if you're just trying to drive this with passion. And some of you may know, because you've seen my discussions in the Discord, of I don't necessarily recommend people do these things for free. The reality is, if you can do these types of things, you don't do them for free. But you guys are there. You guys, since I'm mostly talking to the students, the players, the managers, administrators, etc., who are mostly students, etc., you guys aren't going to be able to leverage yourself into higher paying jobs for this. So if you really want to force your program through, this is how you do it. You talk to people with numbers. Once things have numbers, they get so much more real in the business world, in the funding world, that sort of thing. So yeah, that would have been the next slide in this PowerPoint, and that's exactly what you'd have wanted to do. And I would be hesitant to be like, oh, our next thing is we get a new director or whatever it is, because there's someone who you're presenting to probably isn't going to like that. So instead you go, okay, it's going to lead to this, which we're going to do this, which, we expect to, which, if we get 20,000, we're going to spend it on, I don't know, maybe we're going to spend the first 2,000 on building something to, or purchasing something to specifically track merch sales that were actually done through through our program. Or maybe we're going to spend the next 10,000 on building a summer camp, or maybe we're going to spend the next, whatever the case, it's going to lead to this, where we would expect, based on our standings, based on what similar schools with standings to us have been able to pull in, that we're going to be able to generate in our first year 200 participants, or whatever the case may be there. And I'm not going to give you exactly the secret formula of exactly how you need to do it, because the reality is I'm putting this YouTube video up for free. Do I have a very good idea of how to do these things? Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea of how to do these things. But again, like, we're getting into, okay, we hit the limits of what I'm willing to tell people for free here, and that's fine. I think you guys have a good direction here. In terms of jumping back to our tweet, again, I think my big takeaway here is this should be an esports coordinator job. I don't know if an esports coordinator is actually the next thing you guys need, and actually where it makes the most sense for this funding to go. And maybe you guys do this. This job was posted. Hey, maybe that makes sense. And it could be bad. Do pull this back, whatever. If you get someone in this job, you definitely are going to want someone who's, trying to go above and beyond in terms of, hey, petition for the next level. But I wouldn't in good faith tell anyone to take this job who can do those things, because anyone who can do those things can make more money somewhere else, or can go work for themselves, where they don't then have to hope that they'll get paid more as the program grows. They'll own the program that then grows. Thanks for that. I'll add that. Excellent. Excellent. How does Collegiate Smash work? Is it just crew battles? We'd like to get more funding and try to get an esports director. So what are you looking to get from your esports director? Are you looking to have an esports director because they're more in the room when the funding discussions are happening, because they get to control the funding? Are you looking to get it because they will have the time to do what? Like, it really becomes a, yes, I think an esports director could do a lot of good things for you, but what is that unlocking for you guys, sort of becomes the thing. Because that could absolutely be the right thing, but again, if you want to not just get one thing, but want to keep growing the program and snowballing this, you've got to be thinking in terms of, well, that's going to unlock our ability to do this and unlock our ability to do this. And you might be able to beg and plead to get funding for something like a director once. Sure, that could make sense, but then it's going to have to start being, before you can get anything else, it's going to have to turn into, okay, and now we've turned this into, we're selling tickets, or we're getting, look at this, we got this alumni donation, or whatever the case may be. Currently, your entire program is student-led. Sure. We need a real staff member in the discussions with athletics. Got it. So you want it because you feel like you need someone who's actually a staff member and can actually talk. That makes sense. That does make sense. That said, if you talk to them like adults with business experience, they're still going to be like, hey, you're students, what are you doing? But like, you're going to have more success. And the way you do that is with numbers, with projected returns, and they're going to go, we're not so sure about that. And they'll poke at your projected returns, and you'll go, yeah, ultimately we can't know, but these are our best guess. And what, where else are you guys spending your money to be effective right now? And then again, they poke at it too hard, and you go, well, you're losing money in basketball, so we have a plan that at least can make money, that sort of thing. No one will hand students money, as you said. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Did we cover all the tweets here? This one's from Louis. Okay. That's going to do it. Okay, I'll catch up a little bit on chat here, but I think we've approached the end. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do drop a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Let's take a look. Minvictus says, my university just got an esports program, but it's really poorly managed and half done, half baked, unfortunately. Sure. We just need the people holding us back to get a reality check. I think you guys need a little bit of a reality check too. Like, all of the esports programs have problems. All of them. All of the esports programs have problems. Like, if we go back to your slide, in terms of Boise, who had spent, what, 500K on their program? I mean, it's unlikely that they've recouped that in terms of they've recouped the investment there to really make that worth that. I don't 100% know that. They've just sold the idea really well. We can look at other places who have good programs, who, maybe they're successful programs, but we can talk about Miami, Ohio. They've been somewhat public about that, where it's like, oh, okay, I know you guys have seen that in the Discord, where it's like everything has warts, and that's not saying Miami, Ohio's program is particularly terrible. I could literally pick at anyone's program. I'm trying not to do too much from the Discord because that's not a public Discord, but like, we all know in the scene that no one is making what we necessarily think they should make, and that's because the scene isn't pulling in the dollars yet that we think the scene should pull in. And part of that is, hey, Rocket League hasn't been around for as long as basketball. Again, there's going to be, it's going to be harder to get buy-in. Alumni stuff is going to be happen. It's going to be harder to sell to, cable station, to cable TVs, to get money like that paid into deal, that sort of thing. But that's okay. We work our way through it and make the best of it. That's how it works. I just would tell you guys, like, for example, you guys are laughing at the scholarship dollars that you're offered, and I absolutely know that, and I absolutely get it. But like, with a few exceptions, most of the programs aren't offering wildly more than that, even most of the top programs. And that sucks, but that's how it is. Not the very top programs. The very top programs, yes, are, but like, most of the programs that you'd think of in top 16, top 32 aren't doing significantly more on that front. They might actually have a director that has more buy-in than you guys do, but we'll see. Thank you. Reality check in terms of the job listing not being okay. Yeah, the job listing isn't okay. This should probably be an esports coordinator position. I don't know if that's the right position to make. If that's the right next move for you guys on how your budget gets spent, but you guys think you need a real staff member to talk to them, and that's the staff member that you can potentially afford. So, okay. 42K for dealing with... Oh, hey, Iostex, how you doing? 42K for dealing with 4 teams in 4 different sports. It's not like 4 Overwatch teams like handle the A team, B team, C team, D team. It's 4 different sports that we're talking about here. Must be able to lift 50 pounds. That's a pretty standard thing. That's just to make sure that, like, you don't accidentally want someone to get hurt because they were doing something that wasn't in their job description, and then you've got workers' comp issues. Like, that's really a cover your own butt thing. It's actually in most job descriptions, at least in the States here. Final catch up here. I think that's probably good. Schools run by boomers. They don't understand that being a heads coach. Yeah, but they all are. Like, again, we talked about that already. Once you get outside the top programs, that's true of a lot of them. We could go to Hitmarker right now and see this kind of job listing for a lot. It's just a shame that UT Dallas is so good at esports, and this is still the case. Temporal, you have like 5 people from University of Texas Dallas in your chat. Yep, we caught up. Okay. Okay. I think that's going to do it. We'll wrap it up here. We've really exhausted the discussion. So that's going to do it. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do drop a like. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of this. And drop a comment. If you like seeing more of this, hey, we're covering collegiate type stuff, I'm enjoying it. But, like, if you guys are liking this and want more collegiate, definitely do leave comments letting me know as much, because I do have to pick and choose what to do with my time in terms of, we have to split it between, we're doing some collegiate stuff, we're doing some map guides, we're doing some, obviously I'm going to continue doing reviews of people because that more directly pays than the YouTube stuff right now, but we're growing. Maybe that'll be less true in the future. No problem, Louie. No problem, Noreen. See you guys later. Thanks.